topic of today is what to do when you've fallen off a diet. So there's a few ways to look at this. There's the more physiological route and there's more psychological route. And you might find that these two things sort of conflict each other a bit. So let's give an example really quickly. And to put a context to it, we'll say overall someone's trying to lose weight, so they're trying to put themselves in a net caloric deficit across the week. Let's say they're good Monday through Friday, and as you see sometimes Saturday, Sunday can be a bit of a mess. So let's say, the burgers, pizzas, cookies, all that stuff, all good stuff on the weekend, but it's putting them in a position where they've binged. So what would you do from there? The first thing I'd probably do is ask the question, why did they binge? So you could look into, were the calories high enough across the week where they felt the need to starve? You could look at if it was more emotional reasons. For example, I don't know, they associate food with comfort and there's a stressor and there's some cycle like that that we're trying to break. What would I do as a practitioner? Let's say Monday, client comes in, they've had all the fun Saturday, Sunday. The first thing we do, one, try and figure out the why. Unfortunately, it's not always going to be a quick step. Sometimes it might involve us as like PTs, coaches, whatever, to outsource to psychologists from time to time. But if we can, but the thing is, we always should be working towards trying to find a why and how to cut out the why or shift the why to a more, healthy state, not just like physically, but mentally. So let's say we've addressed that. What do I do? The first thing I'd probably do is consider what can the client handle, because let's say if we're trying to look at the equation for losing fat, it is most important to have a net energy deficit across the week, across the month, across the whenever. Long-term, big picture matters a lot, guys. If you're in a deficit 6 days a week, yet you have so much in this one day, and I have seen it happen, that you eat more across the total week than you burn, you will gain fat. Doesn't matter that there's a 6-to-1 ratio. It matters there's a net where the equation meets at the end of the week. So a common solution that I used to do, I've made this mistake by doing it to all people, is say, okay, we've had a bad day. Let's try and counteract that surplus in the weekend with an associated deficit. Random example, let's say they had 800 and 800 calories of surplus in each of those 2 days. Let's say, okay, we're trying to get in the same position. You try and create 1,600 calorie deficit across the next 4 days, in addition to what you'd already be doing in a fat loss equation. So let's say that might be an extra 400 net deficit. So let's say, for example, you're on a 300 planned deficit, you could make that a 700 planned deficit. I've come to learn that really, really works. I'm now more of the opinion that, okay, you accept the fuck up, pardon the language, and you just go on from the original plan. For example, that 300 calories a day, we keep it going from there. When people sort of get into the, okay, I'm going to try and make up for the mistakes, again, that I've made, boy, it leads to an unhealthy mindset really quick. You get the whole binge, food as a reward, all these things to sort of predispose themselves to eating disorders, which, look, people in the fitness industry probably have, but again, it's a spectrum of these things. How far along you are on the spectrum of completely no relationship to food mentally, which probably doesn't happen to a big degree, to it's your whole life controls, everything is toxic, all that stuff. We sort of move across the spectrum. So I don't say, okay, let's get you off the spectrum, but let's try and keep you more towards the healthy relationship with food side of things. And I think they're really dipping down to make up for mistakes and using cardio and lack of food as a punishment doesn't work well psychologically, and usually leads to more breakdowns, more sadness, which often leads to, okay, how do I make myself feel better about the sadness? More food. It can be a really bad cycle, guys. So if your client happens to stuff up on the weekend, if you happen to stuff up on the weekend, it's probably the best idea to just try and resume on the path and try and forget about it in terms of like, don't punish yourself. Still try and figure out why you did it and then address that, but don't go punishing yourself. So if that ever happens, resume back on schedule. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that.